Can a man change? And that goes for you ladies too. Can we really change? And of course, this is a very, very important question, because the asking of that question can impact our whole life. And of course, I think the answer unequivocally is yes, we can change. How do we change? I read a book a long time ago called I'm Okay, You're Okay by Tom Harris. Some of you may remember it. Talks about transactional analysis. A lot of good stuff in that book. And I came across it just recently, and I was rereading it, and as something came out, he talks about the mechanism of change. And he says that there are 3 ways that we can initiate change in our life. The first one is pain. The second one is despair, which is another kind of pain. And the third one is new awareness. So let's just look at this a moment. Pain, we know about pain. The more painful something is, the more difficult it is to stay right where we are. So if we experience enough pain, we might awaken to the point where we can say, I've got to do something different. There's got to be a better way. And yet I know people who would rather die, who have died, rather than to give up their particular positions, rather than to be wrong. Stay with their pain rather than to change or initiate the processes that would lead to change. And I say I know people, I really mean that. One of them was one of my dear, dear friends. He died at the age of 38 because he refused to change his viewpoint on the medical profession, who were a bunch of bloodsuckers that couldn't do anything for him, and all they were out to do was to take him for a ride. And this was a guy who was becoming nationally famous in the area of field botany. He was no dummy, but he was stuck. So pain is one of the ways that does help us initiate change in our lives, even though some people get stuck right where they are and not willing to embrace the urge to change as a result of pain. And then the second one is despair, which is another kind of a pain. It's more psychological than anything. You know, we have the loss of job, the loss of a spouse, the loss of a marriage, all kinds of things that can come along as losses, and it can become very despairing to us. Unfulfilled dreams as we grow older and we begin to realize that, you know, I'm not going to be the next Einstein. I remember that was a shock to me when I gotten out of engineering school and then out of graduate school, and I realized, hey, some of these guys, some of these really, really smart guys, they just seem to think differently than I do. I'm not going to be an Einstein. And of course, Einstein, he reached his peak by the time he was 25 years old. And it took me 40 to realize that I was not going to do that. But then I had to start working on myself to see what it is I was really here to do. There was a self-discovery. See, this is some of the new insight that we can come to. That there are, what this leads to oftentimes is a sense of meaninglessness. Meaninglessness, yeah, that's correct. And this can lead to real despair in our lives. But we can move past this, Tom Harris says, by coming into new awarenesses of what life is all about. When we realize that there must be a better way. And when we realize that not only is there a better way, but I can discover a better way for myself. That there is within me an urge, an inner prompting, if you will. And this can only come as a result of a deeper involvement with life itself. But we're each made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, there is a godness to each one of us. That's hard for a lot of people to accept that idea. But in the beginning was the Word. The creative intention behind all things is the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was made God, and there was nothing, and the Word was God, and there was nothing made except through the expression of that Word. So I am of that, you are of that. You are of the very essence of the universe, of the divine. So there is something within us we haven't even begun to tap yet. And the more we involve ourselves with life, the more of a sense we get of that inner pressure, that expression, that divine expression that's seeking an outlet through our lives. Out of this comes what Tom Harris refers to as the Eureka Experience. It's a sudden realization or inner acceptance of something. The realization can express itself in your life as the inner acceptance of your own magnificence, the incredible you that you are, with something to offer in this life that goes far beyond anything else that you have ever experienced. The realization that there is a better way to live, a better way to behave, a better way to be, to relate. And you don't need to suffer in this process. And we will. We go, we sin. Sin is just a mistake. We make mistakes, and mistakes cause us to be uncomfortable from time to time. And this process of awakening is not simply dropping away a few bad habits or attitudes or behaviors. It's a recognition that there's a whole new way of living. It is showing up for life fully, being willing to let go, give up your life to be able to get what's waiting for you, to have the life that's waiting for you. We can all do this. And I've told this little story before of Henry Ford when he was asked by a reporter, how does he account for such a successful, long life? And he died, I think he was like 90 years old or just a little before he was 90. He said, how can you do this and you stayed in such good health? He says, when I go to bed at night, I know that I've done everything I possibly can to accomplish my purposes. And then I lie back and leave the rest to God.